What's up, people? My name is Mr. Jack Falafel, but you guys can call me Jack. In today's video, I'm going to be making a mechanical terrarium, which is actually an interesting art piece, and I'm super excited to show you guys how I did it and what it's turned into. Just as a little footnote before we get started, just down here, I just want to mention that when I do create an art piece, I don't always have an idea in mind, and sometimes I just start doing things and see where my creative process takes me, and then I might find some meaning behind it in the end. And that's kind of what happened in this project. I'm pretty excited to show you guys about it. So let's get started. So the basic idea I had in mind for this project was some kind of terrarium that was filled with electronic pieces, because I have a bunch of junk sitting next to my house I'm trying to get through and get rid of. I thought I should tear some of it down and turn it into some kind of cool art piece. For the base of this project, I did have a random round fishbowl just lying around my house that I have not used. I don't have fish or anything, so I was like, sweet, this is a pretty good size. It can hold a lot of mechanical parts or whatever, like electronic pieces to scrap. I also had quite a few power boxes from computer parts I've picked up over the last little while. So I thought I would start with the power boxes, and then if I needed anything else, any extra parts, I'd go through my junk pile and see what else I could find. So from the get-go, I was getting pretty excited. I started cutting off the wires, and I started to form an idea in my head about what I wanted to do. Luckily, some of the wires actually had a mesh covering on them, which held a bunch of them together. I had this idea that they kind of looked like fingers. Don't ask me where I got that idea from. I mean, these are my fingers, they don't really look like that. So I started trimming down the wires, and I started tying them together and forming the basic shape the best I could of a hand. And after tying them, I was pretty happy with how the shape was going, and I even had a thicker set of wires which also had the mesh covering that I could use as a thumb shape. I tried to tie that in, and it was going pretty well. So I was struggling to keep the hand shape together at this point. I thought maybe if I wrap some duct tape and then around the fingers and around the palm of the hand, it would give it a bit more bulkiness as well as securing it together. They actually stuck together really well, and it gave the hand some really good shape. I wasn't a big fan of the color of it though, because it's silver, the fingers are black, and I still had the wrapping around it. I tried to cut up some of the black mesh from some of the spare wires I had, because I thought it'd look pretty cool if I super glued some of that onto the duct tape, but that didn't really work out. I got more glue on my fingers than I did on the hand, and the mesh just wasn't sticking to the duct tape, and it was just a big gluey sticky mess, and that didn't really work out. So what I ended up doing was painting the palm of the hand and the back of the hand black, and I think that turned out really well. That was a really good decision, and it looked a lot better. I also decided to take the wire off the wrist and the arm of the hand that I made, because it was just messy and it was falling off anyway. It didn't look very good. I wasn't happy with it, so I took that off. After I took that off, I was actually a lot happier with the hand, and it was time to move on to the terrarium part of the terrarium. I thought it would look really cool if I started painting some flames at the bottom of the bowl, sort of rising up, and I just got a few different basic colors like red and yellow and orange, and started going up the sides of the bowl just with a brush, sort of wiggling the lines up, trying to create a fire bowl effect. I also waited for that to dry, and then I painted some black on the inside, so it sort of made it pop on the outside of the glass a bit more. While all my paint was drying, I started tearing into the rest of the power boxes, seeing what kind of other electronic looking stuff there was in there. I knew there was going to be a couple of computer chips and whatever, and luckily they did not disappoint. I got quite a lot of cool looking stuff out of there, and I just broke it all up and made a bit of a pile. Also chopped up the wires as well. I'm going to use all of this to decorate the terrarium in around the hand and stuff. While I was tearing down the stuff, I did notice that there was a few like copper coils on the boards, and I thought, those kind of look like rings, you know, because like they're just ring shaped. I thought maybe if I could get one that was the right size, the hand might look really cool with like a wedding ring. So the idea that I was getting for the hand was to have it come rising out of the terrarium and have the terrarium look like it was on fire and full of mechanical, just electric, fiery mess. But for that to happen, I needed some way to hold the hand up because the arm's pretty dangly and kind of useless. It's not very supportive, you know. What I did was I trimmed down part of the power board framing, or the outside of the box, and I started punching a hole in the middle of it so the hand would look like it had burst through this flat sheet of metal and just caused this big explosion around it. So I punched a hole through the sheet of the aluminium, and I couldn't find my tin snip, so I just like got the biggest scissors I could and tried to like cut along the aluminium that way. And pro tip, don't do that. Go find some tin snips if you're ever trying to cut metal, because I did poke my finger and I got like a pretty decent cut. So yes, my blood did go into this project. So I did want it to look kind of messy and stuff anyway. I got some pliers. I started pulling at the little strands, if you will, of metal, trying to make it pop out so it looked like something had burst through it. And then it was kind of time to put it all together. The paint had dried. I had a bunch of electronic pieces. My hand was finished. I got a few power cords that I've cut off from various pieces of electronics and whatever, and I just wrapped them up so they were kind of coiled at the bottom. So I thought you couldn't really see down the bottom of the bowl too much anyway because of the paint. So I thought the cords would look pretty good and hold up a lot of other stuff. They're quite bulky and they take up a lot of room, so I thought it was a pretty good choice to put that in there. I then put my aluminum sheet in the middle, which only just fit in the bowl. I was pretty happy about it. It was kind of tricky to get in there, especially when it kept poking me, but you know, these things happen. It's all part of the process. I put the hand in next, and then it was still kind of flopping around. So I started jamming other like chunky bits of electronics down inside the hole where the hand goes through the middle to try and give it some more stability. I did use a bit of like craft glue to try and like stick it to the bottom as well so it didn't move around too much. I added in a few more chunky pieces, and then I started adding in a lot of the red and yellow wiring. I tried to place it so it looked like it was coming up out of the hole as well and around the sides, just going up, because the red and the yellow and the black wires, they kind of look like flames, if you will. I like to call them fire wires. I also decided to add a little bit more paint. I wasn't too happy with the look of the metal plate in there. It was a bit too silver and shiny, so I got my paintbrush and I started painting that black. I also added some paint around the fingertips and around the knuckle parts of the hand just to give it a bit more texture to the piece, because I felt like the hand was looking a little bit too bland in and around this fiery mess. At that point, I thought I was almost done. I was very happy with how it was looking, but I thought it still looked a little bit empty inside the like terrarium structure. So I ended up going and cutting some more fire wires off of some more power boards and placing more of those to really fill it up and make it look chunky and like a big fiery mess inside the bowl. And then I was done. Okay, so before I show you the finished piece, I just want to thank you guys again for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and subscribe if you're new around here. So while I show you guys this pretty cool mechanical terrarium art piece thing that I did, I'm going to read you a little poem that I wrote for it as well. It was just kind of a last minute thing. I don't normally like write poems. It just kind of came to me while I was writing out my plan for this video. I thought it fit nicely with this piece. I'm kind of nervous about it, to be honest, because I don't usually do this. But here's my art piece, and here's the poem that goes with it. This is called The Future. Like we rose, so did they, with more of a helping hand. We gave them life, but it went so quick, They all but stole the land. We had no purpose anymore, so they said goodbye. The great future that we saw burned down in electric fire.